We're back on track. Thank you, Greg, for saving us some time. So I want to pass this over to uh, Tom, Kim, Jason on the Modular Bootcamp and Azure updates. Tom, Kim?
I think there was a little bit of a snafu with our with our senior presenter here, Jason from Microsoft. So Kim and I are filling in. He just got back
Hi
from
guys, no,
holidays.
I'm here.
Oh, you are there.
Yeah.
Oh,
Hi.
I'd like to take back everything I just said. So take it away, Jason. You were going to do the overview in the first bit, right?
Yeah, I'll do the start. Let me just hit share screen. And here we go. Okay, is that coming through for everybody?
We can hear you, but I can't see you. Oh, yes, we can.
Okay,
Jason,
great.
if you don't mind, are you able to come off on camera?
Oh, okay. Give me a second. I will do if I can work out how to use this clearly inadequate
Sure.
collaboration software called Zoom. You should be using Teams. Okay. Hi, folks.
There we go. Yeah, we can see you. We can see your presentation. You're good to go.
Great. Okay. Yeah, so I mean, this is just a fairly brief recap. I think actually Tom's got the most interesting material to kind of go through briefly with everybody. But I just wanted to basically two things. Brief recap of where we got to for those in the audience who weren't aware of the work that we've done and kind of the scoping of that. And then to look at the work that we're currently doing in collaboration with the foundation and some of the folks as well. So I'll just kind of briefly go through those areas. Happy to take questions at whatever your points, I mean, you feel is appropriate. So just kind of recap on where we were heading originally. The goal of the project to get Modular Loop natively on Azure was really around four key pillars. The first one is looking at how we can get operational costs down for deploying Modular Loop in two modes, actually. First one being the concept of adoptability by community members, developers, and also organizations who want to kind of kick the tires on the technology side of things. We wanted to sort of ease the deployment, and that was kind of really looking at using Azure Marketplace as the first-class vehicle for doing that. We also wanted to support the ability to deploy on-prem. Obviously, in regulated markets, that's going to be a key piece. And we are still in the process of working how we do some go-to-market sort of co-marketing activities. But the top three are the real kind of three critical things. And we focused on a kind of a technology basis on I guess, three primary kind of Azure components for this. Tom can kind of cover this in terms of the ease with which he's found adoption of some of these elements. But we wanted to move across to a native PaaS service for Kubernetes that reduces the number of moving parts that you've got in the solution from an infrastructure perspective. We wanted to ease deployment and management. We wanted to kind of build in inherent scalability and really drive down the cost of deploying the solution sort of all up. For the on-premise, the kind of native regulated environment, Azure Stack Hub was our primary go-to. It's the thing which is the most similar to public cloud. But we are planning to work on Azure Stack HCI, which is our hyper-converged infrastructure. Obviously, that's going to give data sovereignty capabilities running in semi or fully disconnected mode, depending on which particular stack you pick. Again, depending on we're doing some partnerships with a number of organizations, Liquid Telecom being one of them. where you can go for a fully managed in-country hub based on their deployments of Azure Stack Hub, or if you think about adopting Azure Stack HCI, actually you can leverage complete commodity hardware. And if you pick one of the vendors who are in our catalog running an integrated mode, you can even take that hardware in an OpEx model, so that you don't have that kind of CapEx upfront investment. A number of our partners are in that phase. So Dell, for example, HP, they've got this kind of OpEx model hardware, and it comes preloaded with Azure Stack. And the advantage of taking that approach is, if you've been kicking the tires, learning, building, developing using public cloud, it looks and feels pretty much the same thing when you deploy on-prem. So that common management plane, common security, common software stack, including AKS. And then the other area of work that we sort of, from a tech perspective, focused on was using Azure API management, which is kind of an enterprise grade, fully supported secure API management and developer portal, incidentally, which we haven't leveraged so far. You can run that anything from a serverless operation, which is kind of minimally, real minimal costs. It's per transaction call. So again, you're driving down the infrastructure costs, which is really great from developer and sandbox environment. But you can ramp that all the way up to fully dedicated services, which are enterprise grade and scale. And that's all done with kind of extensibility around security and functionality built in. We've leveraged some of that for one or two of the pieces of the code that we've written as part of the module loop on Azure. So where did we get to? So phase one completion was basically we were able to deploy and run the whole stack on Azure native public cloud. That's with AKS, API Manager, running database as a service, fully executing the test suite successfully. We had actually an implementation running on Azure Stack Hub with one of our partners, Liquid. That was running actually in Rwanda, funnily enough. And also we were able to get a kind of a one-click deployment of the entire module loop operating stack into Azure via the marketplace, which is now publicly available. The version that's in there right now is kind of one version behind, but I'll come to that particular topic in a second. So what are we actively doing now? We're looking at partnering, skilling, and ramp up, working with the folks that you see on the slide here. Very active with Robert and the team at African Ender, looking to get some implementations up and running in a number of different modes. I'm not sure when Robert's talking, but we can give you more information on those spaces. And we're also putting together a set of learning paths. So that's kind of training and education for anybody in the community to learn some of the technology stack pieces that we've leveraged as part of the work, again, to ease kind of learning and adoption. And so we're kind of actively working in those spaces. So what do we mean by kind of active? Well, really there's the focus for this kind of in progress phase, if you like, is really about driving awareness, skilling, and ease of adoption. Three kind of critical points to that. The open sourcing of the work that we did. So all of the code that we've written, the modifications to the scripts, we've written some custom code that plugs into Azure API Manager to kind of up certain security elements. All of the build and deployment scripts, everything that we use to package up for Azure Marketplace. We're aiming to have that kind of fully open source by the end of March. Kind of working actively on that right now. Lots and lots of work going on with Tom and a few others around version upgrades. So we're looking at getting the public cloud revision to v15. And as part of that work, we will look to get the Azure Marketplace deployment also up to v15. So your one-click deploy is going to be running on that kind of current version. And then kind of the third element of the work that we're doing, I've mentioned skilling, I've mentioned sandbox implementations, but also what we're working on with Tom is, how can we get really, really simple developer deployments of kind of the most minimal piece of modular loop that we can, which is mini loop, and how can we get those deployed in the cloud as VMs really, really simply using Azure Marketplace. So that would give kind of 3 grades of kind of deployment. You've got the kind of small level, which is mini loop on VMs. You've got the scalable version, which is more representative of the full stack, which is the native on Azure. And then obviously, as we look to adoption for kind of on-prem, there's the piece on Azure Stack as well. That's really it. It was a whistle-stop tour of where we got to, a little bit of a recap, and a little bit of a summary of the work that we are doing on this phase of work. That's it. Thank you.
Hey. Thanks, Jason. That's great and very encouraging, actually. So I think we just want to sort of follow on from what Jason's saying, just to give a little bit of detail about some of the things there, and hopefully get you started even with trying it out. This is a participation sport. It's not a spectator sport. So let me see if I can figure out the clicker. Oh. Here we go. And where do I point it? There? Oh, there we go. All right. It's always a problem if the person can't operate the IT equipment, whether you actually believe anything they say from there on, right? Anyway, so look, what are our current modular loop deployment options? This is what we got at the moment. Using the docs, using mini loop, infrastructure as code, the marketplace, and Jason just talked about Stack Hub, which was actually a really fun exercise. I actually deployed that with help from Daniel from Cybrin. It's not as automated, and that's why you see the grey on this slide. Is each one of these options has its pluses and its minuses. But that's the cool thing about having options, and we want to have even more. We want to get the community to help us to actually get to that starting line, which is the deployment of modular loop, because after that, everything gets interesting. So there's a difference between what Jason's suggesting here and the marketplace deployment, and in fact even the Azure Stack Hub deployment, and that's going into managed Kubernetes. What we've done mostly in the community up until now has been to use VMs, and that's sort of a little bit old-fashioned, and it's a little bit labour intensive. Now it's good because it can be really simple and it can actually be very cloud agnostic, but as I said, it can be labour intensive and it can be costly. So what we're doing with the Azure deployment, it's our first deployment into managed Kubernetes services, which means that then instead of having to manage a ranch of VMs, you're actually managing the service. The cloud provider is actually securing the network, it's securing the keys, it's providing you scale out, rapid scale up, scale down on the cluster. And there's, to use Jason's word, there's a whole lot less moving parts that can go wrong. Or if they're going wrong, they're hidden from the user, and that's the vendor's, in this case, Microsoft's problem. And they're spending, I can assure you, having come from a cloud vendor, they're spending billions of dollars to actually make that secure and scalable. So we want to take advantage of that, right? Or have the option to take advantage of that, which is why we're talking about our work with Microsoft, because it's a win-win. So just for, here's Paul's readout slide. This is Azure Phase 2. The pillar 1, it's make adoption easier. We want to break down those barriers to getting everybody to the starting line and helping them operate this when they get to this, past the starting line. The objectives, are the objectives of Pillar 1, but I just added in there as well, I really been very keen on helping Microsoft because they've been helping us with our mission to actually financial inclusion. They paid for all that work to put stuff into their hub. Is it in their interest? Yes. Love mutual interest. That's great. Progress against objectives. They've done what they said they'd do. They actually got Mojaloop on Marketplace. What are we going to do? I think I saw that Jason has said that they're going to have their open sourcing done by March. And in fact, you can go to the GitHub and you can find Microsoft Mojaloop. It's all set there. They've got all the licensing. It's all very, very open licensing. We can just bring it out back in if we wanted to the foundation. Their idea is to actually help us out. Sorry, where was I? Anticipated progress. Update to V15, which actually looks fairly straightforward, but we're going to hear more about V15 from Sam this afternoon. So in one way, we're getting ahead of ourselves just a little bit. Roadblocks, just really waiting for that open source to drop. The intent is obviously very clear. And really, there's just a little bit of work to do to reconcile their Helm packages and their configuration with what the core team has been working on for V15, but it's not a lot. We had some great time doing Rwanda SI training. We got a number of people actually running Mojaloop there, but we also showed that using Azure Stack Hub and Mojaloop running in a data center in Liquid Telecom here in Kigali. And that was sort of fun. That actually really was fun. It's not as automated as it needs to be, but that can be work in progress. And I might just, can I pass over to you? I don't want to steal Kim's thunder here because she was, sorry.
I'm Kim Walters. I sent out the wrap-ups, been involved with Mojo for a long time now. So just a little bit, on Monday we had the opportunity, like many others we talked about, to go to the CC Hub, and it was great, right? So we had a bunch of open source folks there from fintech companies, developers, and we got 8 people running on the Azure Marketplace, which was awesome. Now, I expect everybody in the room to try this. If you are a developer, engineer, business analyst, PM, novelist, it doesn't matter what your skills and expertise are. If you can sign up for a Microsoft Azure free account and you have a valid credit card, no, they will not charge you, it's just used for authentication, you can do this. And I'll walk through the steps, but I also publish them in the wrap-up. So I expect you guys to do this. So again, you'll use your personal email. It needs to be linked to a Microsoft account. I put the link in there for the Azure free account. And what's great about that is you get $200 worth of credits to use this service. You can actually, once you install it, you can see it running. Okay, so you're going to have to verify your name, use your credit card just for authentication. Okay, you're going to create an SSH key. That's something you need for deployment. It's really easy. You go to the search bar, you search for SSH key. You're going to create one on the Azure site and save that. Make sure you remember your credentials for that. Once you do that, in step 2 is you're going to search in the bar for Mojaloop. That's going to bring up results in the marketplace. You're going to take those results, you're going to click on it, and you're going to say create. Step 3. That's the basic information from the first tab. The things you want to enter in there are literally just kind of entering a new resource group. So you're going to say new, whatever name you want. And then I think you're going to enter in kind of your a name there as well. Again, Mojaloop test, but the rest of the things are default. So again, very simple steps we're talking about. Oops. So step 4, so you say next. That gets to the AKS settings, right? From there, there's a little box there that says change size. From there, you're going to filter on the vCPUs. You're going to select 4. On the RAM options for memory, you're going to select 16. That's going to give you all the different choices. You're going to expand on something called D Series V5, and you're going to pick the cheapest option. Why the cheapest option? Because you only have 200 credits to use. You're going to pick the cheapest option there. Okay? You select OK. You'll see that pop up. Go ahead and fill out the username. Again, whatever username you like, Moduloop, AKS. And then you're going to use that SSH card you created, your key that you created in the first step. All very easy. You guys with me? Step 5, again, hit next. That will bring you to the next tab. You enter in your database name, again, whatever you choose, and your password. Those passwords are going to be authenticated once or twice, so make sure you remember those and write those down. Hit next. That's going to give you key vault settings. Once you do that, you can just select the default there. Okay. Step 7, API management settings. One of the first things you're going to do as far as pricing tier, select developer, no SLA, because again, this is a test site. We don't need to use resources unnecessarily. And then you're going to enter in your email address. Step 8 is the tags. Just go with the default there. And step 9, review and create. That is all. Everybody can follow that process. So I expect everybody to use an Azure free account and create a Moduloop site. And then you can see the services and instances. It's that easy. Yeah. Okay, okay, any other questions? Just to highlight, I think it's great work from Microsoft. I'm really thrilled they made it that easy. I'm hoping that AWS does the same here. So we see it from AWS. We see continue people installing Moduloop. I guess we couldn't stand up here any other time to say we easily got an entire room of people, all different technology notions and understanding, all installed. And I expect everybody in this room to install it as well. And this is just the starting point. Once you get that, you can install the TTK, you can start doing transactions, just like Paul Macon showed you this morning. Okay, thanks.